Music producers, have you ever wanted to suck less? I'm about to arm you with forbidden knowledge that mainstream music producer academia doesn't want you to see. DJs hate him for this one small trick. Doctors hate him. Local old women near you love him. Today I have been absolutely smoking that dark evil pack, risking it all in the Illuminati headquarters right now to bring you this top secret information. This is like some Nicolas Cage stealing the Constitution type shit. So before this video gets banned by big music, please make sure that you like and subscribe to Fight the Illuminati and to support me. That would be sick. Please, maybe just for the second reason would be good. Thank you. It's time to learn some music production tech. This video is for music producers of all skill levels, but be warned, you're going to need to at least understand a little bit of automation and how to use it in your DAW, as well as basic concepts surrounding low frequency oscillators. If you want to see me do a video on those concepts, I would be more than happy to, but we're starting off with some kind of crazy shit here. Be warned, if you're looking for a basic tutorial on a simple music production task, this is not that. This is a sound design ear candy trick that is going to take your music production to the next level. This is going to be somewhat involved. It's going to take a few entire clicks of your mouse to set this one up. Buckle in if you're ready to actually step your game up. How to flutter glide, ramp slide, chop warp, gradient sweep, LFO ramp. I have no idea what to call what I am about to try to teach you how to do. So if you have a name for it that you know of, please comment it below. My vote is personally for gradient sweep. I think that's the best, most accurate name for what I'm doing. And I'm sure it has a name in classical music or something. I really think this is a music composition trick that once music producers figure out on their own, probably most of them are trying to keep this in their back pocket as kind of like a secret, industry knowledge type thing. When I say like music, DJs hate them and all that, like, obviously that's not real, but the thing is, right, I'm here to teach you a music production technique that not a lot of people talk about. Real talk. It's kind of a secret among music producers, and you could say this technique in particular is one that synthesizes a lot of musical ideas as well as DAW proficiency. I'm going to show you how to do this effect with one plugin and two automations, one of which is technically optional. Once you get this trick and the concepts required to pull it off wired into your brain, you will absolutely be a better music producer all around, or your money back. Wait a second. This video is free to watch. But maybe if you're feeling generous, you could like and subscribe. What I'm going to teach you today is something that requires a few things. We're going to use certain synthesizers and certain techniques. We're going to use a very specific synthesizer called Serum 2. You might have heard of it. And this technique starts with an understanding that LFOs can be used to modulate volume and various other parameters. Fairly straightforward, right? What I'm going to teach you today is how to create a linear rate, continuous, smooth, low-frequency oscillator that creates perfect transitions, amazing polyrhythms, and what I'm talking about really is this sick, stuttering, warping, rising, falling effect that I'm going to call a gradient sweep. I've heard it in so many pieces of music. Odessa, Flume, and others are really, really known for this type of sound, and it can be really, really sick when it's used right. So I think it'll be better to just show you exactly what I'm talking about. Let's take a look at this Serum 2 patch that I have right here. And what we'll do is we'll listen to the MIDI here. I've got it soloed, and then we'll take a look at the actual Serum patch to see what's happening. We'll go ahead and look at the MIDI here just so that you can kind of see what's going on without actually seeing the automation. And also, this track down here is the audio version of the MIDI, so you can kind of see this sort of stuff that we're doing here in real time instead of just these blocks. There it is. So I don't know if you noticed that. It's not very subtle, right? And then it slows down and links back up with the grid there. Well, let's take a look at how I'm doing that. If you've ever wanted to create that effect, I'm going to show you how to do it. It is now easier than ever before. If you've ever wondered how to make that happen in your DAW, you may have even found a way to do so, but it might have been kind of clunky, required multiple plugins. Some math even might have been involved. Kind of a goose chase. The way that I used to do this required the sort of goose chase for information that was not always immediately available or obvious. I'll explain what I'm talking about in just a second, but the reason that I'm so compelled to make this video right now is that I genuinely think this tech has never been easier to pull off. Thank you so much to Steven Duda and this team at Xfer for the free upgrade to Serum 2 and making this so easy. Y'all have done some incredible work with this upgrade. If you've been living under a rock, you might not have heard that Serum got a free upgrade earlier this year and is now certainly, again, one of the most powerful synthesizers of all time. This tech hinges on a major but small upgrade, quality of life change, really, that I noticed today when I was making this track and working on it. When you hear what I'm about to tell you about Serum 2, your brain is going to explode. Your brain will expand. It's one of the most obvious things ever, but I have not seen a plugin for some reason that can just do this easy thing. It's really one of the smartest things I've ever seen done by a plugin designer ever, and it's what Serum 2 did to change the relationship between the Hertz mode of the LFO rate knob and the BPM sync mode. Let's take a look at what I'm actually talking about here inside of Serum 2 itself. So here is my massive Reese bass that I made. So when you scrub through the rate knob here, set to BPM, right, you'll notice it jumps discretely between different values that are basically, different subdivisions. When you scroll through this wheel and it's set to BPM mode, you only get the various different subdivisions of quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, 32nd notes, 64th notes, all the way up, so on and so forth, until eventually it just says fast, which can be useful. But by setting this knob to Hertz, you can easily get really smooth automation with this. Now, what did Serum 2 actually change? Well, you may notice when I go between 64th and in the BPM knob, when I go between 64th and Hertz, it goes to 38.1. Here's the thing. 38.1 Hertz is a 64th note at our current track's tempo of 152 BPM. Why would it not stay at the same value and just switch over to the Hertz mode where we can scrub through all of these different values? Like I said, it kind of bewilders me now that I know that Serum 2 can do this, that every other plugin cannot do this. Or that most of the plugins I've tried don't have this as a standard feature. If we're here at 64th notes and I switch to the Hertz value, 38.1 comes up. Well, 38.1 is a 64th note. So it stays exactly where it was, but it switches to the Hertz value. I swear, in Serum 1 and in other VSTs, when you switch between the BPM mode and the Hertz mode, it just jumps to a random number. It doesn't tell you, how many Hertz is a 16th note, how many Hertz is an 8th note. That's super weird. It should do that, and Serum 2 does that now. We are going to take full advantage of that in order to create this sound. So you can do this with any sound in Serum. All you need is this one LFO and some optional automation, right? So what we're going to do first is change the shape of our LFO to saw down. It's in the basic here. You can do any of these shapes, actually, but we're going to do saw down to get this exact effect. Now, I'm going to go back to BPM mode because that's our default. So here's the thing. You could even use the stock Ableton LFO if you wanted for this. I'm pretty sure Fruity Loops has a whole menu of LFOs. If you want to get it perfect instantly, all you have to do is go into this menu here, click basic, saw down. Easy, right? So what we're going to do is click on the LFO icon. I've already done it, but you can click on the LFO icon right here to drag this over to the level. You'll see a little plus, and then if you let go, it will modulate the level. What I like to do is turn the level all the way down for this, right? Its starting value is going to be 0. And then what we're going to do is basically allow the LFO to modulate to about like 90% of the full volume possible here on this oscillator. We're going to do that same LFO to the level of oscillator 2. And what that means is that this LFO, when we play back our track, is going to control level. You can see this blue going through super fast in there, right? Well, when we listen to this at BPM sync mode, you can hear it's kind of choppy, it's kind of inorganic, it doesn't really sound great. When we switch to Hertz mode, we get this perfectly smooth sweep. Perfect. So now that we have the LFO mapped to the levels, what we can do is automate a change in the rate. And in Ableton and in Serum 2, it is so easy. Now, where this gets a little complicated is if you want to have this on one track and then turn it off on the same track, you can actually use the smooth at 100% as like a kill switch for the LFO. It will not change the volume of the track if your smooth is set to 100% here. You can see that it actually, right, changes the shape of the LFO. It gives you this kind of white paste, like pale version of the LFO. Well, when you switch to 100% smooth, you'll notice that it's pretty much set to 0. So that actually means that your LFO will not affect the volume of these sounds. By switching from BPM to Hertz mode, right, we actually see that where we need to be, we're going to start at 38.1 Hertz. So 38.1 Hertz is a 64th note at 152 BPM, and that is so handy. If you want to use the smooth knob to kind of act as a dry wet at 0 and 100% for this, that's great. You can also automate the smooth knob. This is that optional automation I was talking about to sweep into this automation. Kind of crazy. So the gradient sweep really hinges on one thing, changing the LFO's rate knob from BPM mode to Hertz mode and getting the subdivision in Hertz that you need. You need to get the subdivision in Hertz that you want to start at, the fast one in this case, and the slow one as well. So what we get is 38.1 Hertz equals 1/64th note, and 9-ish Hertz, give or take, right, equals 1/4 note. So we're going from 30-second notes to quarter notes with perfect smoothness. We don't really need to do this math anymore because Serum 2 is doing it, but bear with me. I'm going to try to explain it as best as I can anyway. You can convert the Hertz value of a certain note length at any BPM. It can be calculated fairly easily. You can even just look it up and go on the internet. How many Hertz is 1/4 note at 120 beats per minute? But to convert these values, there's an equation you can use, which is BPM times 0.016 infinite repeating decimal over 1 equals your Hertz value. If we plug 120 BPM into this, we get 1/4 note equaling 2 Hertz. 1/4 note is 1 beat in 4/4, right? And 1 beat is 1 oscillation, 1 Hertz. Kind of silly. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Math is definitely not my strong suit. But the point is you can actually just look up a BPM to Hertz converter to get these values. So for the ramp down version of this effect, we want to start at the fast subdivision, like a 30-second note or a 64th note. Possibly a triplet value or a dotted value would be helpful as well to kind of get a bigger range. If you go really, really fast, the individual hits will start to kind of blur together. That can also be a cool effect. This is what's going to allow us to automate a smooth, continuous transition through these individual hits, rather than having them play back, choppily, shittily, kind of jankily. We can actually just type the numbers that we get from here straight into Ableton. When I click on this rate knob in Ableton Live, we end up seeing that it creates an automation line here. I can just create an automation point where I want to start the effect. Right click the automation point, click edit value, and I can type the number in. I'm going to go to where I want the effect to end and right click on another automation point and type that number in. So I have 38.1 Hertz, which is 64th notes, sliding perfectly down this line to 9.4 Hertz, which is, roughly a quarter note. I think it's closer to 9.1. If we turn the smooth back all the way up, the LFO will stop affecting the level of the track. So, again, let's hear it. That stops there, starts again here. And of course I have it kind of sweeping in, so you can sweep the smooth in to start the effect a little more gradually. If we turn this automation lane, make it just 0 to 1, right? It's not very smooth, but we can go here and make it a little smoother. Sounds so cool. This type of innovation in sound design, or at least this type of quality of life increase, is so important in music production. If you followed along and were able to learn how to do this tech, you're going to save so much time if you ever want to start a filter sweep, gradient sweep, like what I have here in this track. All you have to do is copy and paste those values from Serum into your automation lane. It's just that simple. And that is what I love to see. You don't even have to do math. I understood this process conceptually years ago, but actually opening my browser or a calculator to convert BPM to hertz was just so annoying. I ended up compromising using different, shittier, slower methods to create less cool versions of this effect with even more difficulty. And I learned recently that Logic has a menu where you can see the subdivision values in hertz, but it's in this region editor window that's really small. It's not the same thing as being able to actually instantly find these numbers and type them into your automation lanes, which is truly goated. I am a full Ableton convert, and this is just one of many reasons. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. As a little treat, I'll go ahead and play you a snippet of this track in its full context. It's just that easy. Anyway, that's a work in progress, but I absolutely love it. Thank you all so much for stopping by. Please, on your way out, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're a music producer watching videos like this and trying to understand what the fuck is going on is going to make you a better music producer. It's going to increase your sound design skills and your knowledge of your DAW and your VSTs that you paid hard money to learn how to use. So anyway, here's to growing as sound designers, musicians, music producers together. If this technique was helpful, let me know. And if you made something with this technique, I would love to hear it. Post your SoundCloud links in the comments. Let's fucking get it, y'all.